Hi folks, it's Cobbett of the Shire here. I'm smoking my Falcon, one of my estate Falcon pipes. They're a really nice pipe. I know people make fun of them, but they give you a dry smoke. You can smoke them all day, just change the pot when you want. And in it I've got Lane's IQ, 1Q rather. I'm into aromatics tonight. I need a little bit of comfort. The other Sunday I was challenged by a video put up by Ghost Cobb and Mrs. Cobb when they were talking about their Christmas traditions that they have at home. And I'm going to put in a link to it, or at least, the title of the video so you can try and find it. What challenged me was the way they celebrate their Christmas. They don't buy each other presents, for example, but they try and make sure that other people have something. And they try and make their Christmas day an experiential day, that they have experiences rather than presents. And it challenged me to think about how I celebrate Christmas, what we do. And it also made me think about the difference between habit and tradition. Habit, I think, is what we all do. We do things by habit sometimes. Because we've always done it that way. Somebody I knew, she used to cut, when she got a lamb leg joint, she used to cut the bone at the end of the joint before she put it in the oven and throw the end of the bone away. And her husband sort of challenged her and said, "Why do you do that?" And she said, "Oh, you've got to. And he said, "Well, why have you got to?" And she said, "Well, Mum always used to do it, and I've always done it." And she asked her mother why she cut the bone off the end of the lamb joint, and her mother said, "Oh, well, that oven was far too small. I couldn't get it in without cutting the end off." So all through her early married life, she'd been cutting the end off the joint because she thought that that's what had to happen. It was a habit that she'd got into. And the reason was that her mother's oven was too small. And our habit, when the family was around, when Tim and Rebecca were around, was always to have a full Christmas dinner. And we had our traditions for it. We had a thing called savoury pudding at the beginning of the meal. That was sort of breadcrumbs, onions, all sorts of things mixed into it. And we'd have a slice of that on the plate with some gravy, and that would begin our Christmas meal. And then we'd have turkey and all the trimmings, the usual things: pigs in blankets, Brussels sprouts, roast potatoes, ordinary potatoes, roast parsnips, and the list goes on and on. And then we'd finish with Christmas pudding, which I would set alight, and we'd have an alcoholic sauce with it, mainly so that it quietened the children down for the afternoon and we could have a snooze. But when the time came for Christmas tea, which we'd also bought a load of stuff for, we were still too full from Christmas dinner, really, but we had some tea. When the children left home, we carried on the tradition. But then last year, we decided that it was just too much. Why would we want all that kind of food? So we had a buffet meal instead. Lots of things that we liked, and we chose different things ourselves that we liked, so that we'd have something that we both liked and things that we liked as individuals. And that was left on the table throughout the day. If we wanted to nibble, we could do. And it made up part of the Christmas tea as well. And it was a lot better because we hadn't been eating so much. I don't know whether it was that we felt that it was there for the rest of the day, therefore we didn't feel that we had to get everything eaten straight away. And I wonder if there are things that you do it because it's tradition. You know, I was thinking the meal that you have for Thanksgiving. I've had sort of pumpkin pie and that kind of thing at a friend of ours who was from the States, and you know it's a traditional thing, and traditions are very, very good. But isn't the meal that's the tradition, or the tradition of Thanksgiving? I'll leave you to think about that one. But for us, it made us think about Christmas and what we were going to do this year. And then we looked at Ghost Cob's video and were challenged even more. You know, Carolyn goes to church, is a Christian, very definitely. And whatever I say, I still have a deep spirituality. It's just that I'm not linked to any denomination or church or any particular view. If there is a God, I believe that God is in everything and everyone. Not that everything and everyone are God, but that God's in those things. But we thought, you know, what do we do for Christmas? And this year I've invited someone around who I knew would be alone. And he's sort of said yes, he'll come if he doesn't get a better offer. No. Sometimes his friends ask him round, and if they do, then he'll go to them. But part of my reasoning was to reach out, you know, to somebody who might have had to spend Christmas Day stuck at home, you know, and that's the worst day. The Christmas period is the loneliest of times for people who are by themselves, because everybody else is having things happening. There are no shops open. There's nobody to talk to. And sometimes when you live alone, you're so lonely that the only person that you talk to is somebody who might occasionally come to the door, either to tell you something or, you know, that kind of thing. And I got thinking about, you know, what my response to that should be. And I'm not saying that I'm particularly decided yet what my response should be. But certainly I think I need to look at those things that I do because they're habit rather than tradition. You know, maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time to do something totally different on Christmas Day. I know there are places where I could go and help out, that provide food for people, that provide a place of shelter. I know there are people that I could invite round. Or even there are people who have invited us and, oh, it's too far to go, you know, whatever. And that got me thinking about the things we do in worship. Or, you know, I've been a member of virtually every denomination there is. I've worshipped in Pentecostal churches, Elim Pentecostal, you know, some of the home churches, the fellowship churches, the Anglican Church, the Methodist Church, the Russian Orthodox Church, the Roman Catholic Church, Jewish synagogues, all those things I've been involved in. And at one synagogue I was given a Jewish prayer book when they knew that I was going to college to study for the ministry. And I still use that prayer book quite often. It's full of wisdom and insight. But there are things that we do in worship, the shining the light bulbs, or changing the light bulbs, the polishing the stars, the waving the arms. That's just one thing. The way we repeat the choruses, or we come in the middle of songs in some worship, which I just never could get. And in my own Anglican church, there are things that we do that are very meaningful if you know why they're being done. There was a point where I celebrated communion as a priest, and I put a drop of water in the wine before consecration, and it was to symbolise the humanity and divinity joined together. May we who share in this bread and wine come to share in the divinity of, and the humanity. The idea that Jesus became human and is represented by the water and the divine represented by the wine. But most people in the congregation didn't know what was going on, and in one church they thought I was watering down the wine to save money. And once I found that out, I made sure that I explained why we did things. Why were we doing things like that? And it's got me to question all sorts of areas of my life. What's habit? What's tradition? What's important? What isn't? And I'm going to sort of leave it there, just leave you with that challenge. What in your life do you do out of habit? What do you do out of tradition? And are there any things that you feel that can change, that the habit maybe doesn't have to be a habit anymore? And it's not always easy to change that thing because we get used to it. I got used to tons of turkey and tons of stuffing. I didn't get to be the size that I am through self-denial. So I sort of leave you to think about that one. And I'm seriously thinking about what we're going to do for the big Christmas celebration. And I'm thinking also, about my life, the way decisions I've made and that kind of thing. So I'm going to say goodbye at this point. I'm not going to keep going on as I normally do. But what I will say is, may your God bless you and may your God go with you.